Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our new playthrough. It's on Jedi Fallen Order. And I love the opening of this game.
Yes. This is one of the most atmospheric openings I've seen on any of these. It's very pretty.
It's
Fun
an
fact,
amazing opening.
it is. And fun fact, I was just telling Lith that one of our colleagues likes to listen to the band playing in the background, which is a Mongolian throat singing band called The Who, when he's meditating. Like, you do you, dude. Doesn't seem like the most meditative
I don't
music.
want to upset the rhythm count, but the boss wants a word. Be good for us. Free his teeth.
An error has been detected on line 10A. All clamps are jammed. I need 2 workers to climb up and secure the cables.
That's not an easy maneuver.
The guild will double your pay for this shift.
Hell. What's your score? That could hurt. Huh? All right. Let's go.
Get to work.
This way. Right behind you.
Yay! I'm so glad to be back. For like a 7th time. I love this game so much. Okay.
It does feature heavily in your research.
Yeah,
Did your cat just come in the room in the background?
No.
I heard a door somewhere, so.
I think that's in game. I'm not sure.
Ah.
Um,
Well, anyway, yes, this is a glorious game. It's very pretty.
yeah.
It's got a lot of fun themes and stuff that I'm sure you will be more than happy to tell our viewers about.
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, I'm gonna just say that I did do. This is a new Journey Plus, just because the only thing it really changes in this game is the outfits and lightsaber colors.
That's cool, though.
And because when they put out the new game plus, they said they weren't gonna let you hold on to all your skills and such, because it's a part of Cal's journey in the game and it's such a big part of the story that they didn't want to give it to you ahead of time. So I didn't feel like it was gonna change the game to start on the game plus. I love that scene too. It's very
Oh, yes.
pretty.
Mm-hmm.
This whole game is just amazing.
Very pretty.
And I have seen like people's complaints about certain parts of it, but it was very well done in my opinion, and I just love everything about it. And you might be asking, what does this game have to do with archaeology?
That is an excellent question. So do tell us more, Liz.
I mean, I have a whole Let's Plays worth of why this game is about archaeology, which is why we're playing it. So we'll kind of come to parts of it as we get there. But needless to say, it starts in a scrapyard full of like old stuff no longer in use. So it even starts out very archaeological in some senses.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you think about it, what we do as archaeologists is excavate people's, not necessarily trash, but things they discarded in one way or another from the past. Some of it is trash.
Yeah, a large part of what we do is look through the trash because that's what's available to us.
Also true.
So. So yeah, I just this game is really about archaeology. And I mean that even stems from a lot of people compare it to Uncharted, which is often seen as a type of archaeological game. It's much more an action adventure game with treasure hunting sprinkled in. And we probably will play Uncharted possibly next after this game, just kind of to compare the two. And to talk about why I like this game better.
That's fair.
Um,
I haven't played any of the Uncharted games myself, but based on other reviews I've seen about it, there's a lot more, how to put this nicely, ethnic cleansing involved than there might be in some games that we get the anthropology side of archaeology down correctly.
yeah, so we'll talk about that more later. But
Apologies for any weird background noises, and Lith's cat is having a time back there, it sounds like.
yeah, she often has a time. So, um, but yeah, so just the fact that it's even comparable to Uncharted makes it a type of archaeological game in a lot of
That's
senses.
fair. Mm-hmm.
But I love Cal so much. He is one of my favorite Star Wars characters in general, for a lot of reasons. And I wrote a thesis on this game and then didn't want to never play it again, which I think says something. Because often we get a little burnt out on... Often grad students in general get a little burnt out after they finish a thesis on something, and kind of don't want to at least want to take a break from it, or maybe want to switch their focus. Oh my gosh, Cal, want to switch their focus after that because it takes a lot out of you.
It does.
But I still love this game.
I mean, that's fair.
Whatever that says about me.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
There we go. And like we promised in that Instagram post, we might turn this game inadvertently into a see spot run kind of adventure, but it's like see Cal jump, see Cal fall. We had way too much fun doing that the first time we played this through together.
Yeah. And like I said, this game, the background scenes are sometimes just gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this game does a good job at like sort of imitating the movies in that sense. Maybe does a better job than some of the movies. I'm not going to get into favorite Star Wars movies here because I don't want to get into that currently, but yeah.
So, Liz, do you want to tell anyone else a bit more about why Cal is one of your favorite characters in here?
He's just such a pure person.
Fair.
But not in a way that makes him too pure. Like, I think if the original trilogy suffers from anything, it might be that Luke is too perfect. And I think they tried to compensate like the opposite way in the sequel trilogy for Luke being too perfect originally. But then they made other characters a little too perfect as well. But I think like Cal comes across as human and good and pure without being overdone and without me wanting to punch him in the face at certain times.
That's probably says a lot right there.
Yeah, and like he's still been through a lot. Like I'm not gonna spoil anything right now, but he's obviously been through a lot in his short life. But he manages to both like deal with that trauma without like losing his character.
Mm-hmm.
I love Cal.
I mean, I did stick Cal as Bay in the tags on our most recent Instagram post to hype this video. So it's there for a reason. And I'll also say that, like, I don't... How to put this? Star Wars is not my favorite franchise, certainly, but this game was the most enjoyable, like, Star Wars experience I think I've had, other than watching some of the TV shows with you, Lith. Some of those are really fun too, especially like Clone Wars and Bad Batch were a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, I also do really like Ahsoka, which might make me seem a little basic.
She's a well-written character, though. I mean, if nothing
But
else.
she is a very well-written character. Better than almost any other character.
That's also fair.
I mean, if it says anything, that George Lucas wasn't really involved in either of those characters' creation that much.
Yeah.
I mean, he was involved in Ahsoka's creation because the Clone Wars happened before Disney bought the company. But other writers and producers had a lot more to do with how that character was written, as opposed to him. He was more just the producer and like basically held kind of like the vice president holds like vetoing powers. So he was more there to like make sure everything was going smoothly than that he was micromanaging everything.
Yeah.
I actually saw this YouTube video that if I find the link for it, I'll put it in the description, but it talks about Ahsoka's intentional character growth, and how she was written intentionally from the beginning to go from kind of being an annoying little brat to someone that everybody cared about suddenly, without knowing quite how we got there. I certainly didn't. I didn't like her for a while, but I didn't watch much of the Clone Wars for a while. And then when I did, and it got towards the end, I was like, oh man, I don't want her to die.
Again, good character writing and good character development goes a long way, certainly. I just think that's something also they did very well with Cal. Again, not to spoil things, but he's one of those, like, I wasn't sure that I liked him from this intro that we had because I hadn't seen this before, but by the end of it, I'm certainly with the, like, Cal is awesome as a character on multiple levels. Trained with you there, Lith, so kudos to whoever wrote that.
Yeah, so when this game was first announced, there was actually a lot of backlash. Nobody liked Cal. Most of them didn't, from the trailers, anyway. I mean, I think the actor, people liked the actor because he was in Gotham. He played the Joker in Gotham, and people liked his portrayal of that. But when this game was announced, there was a huge backlash against the fact that he's a white human male, which has been frankly overdone in the Star Wars universe to a large extent.
Yeah, as a character trope, I mean, it's kind of been overdone on a lot of things, period.
Yeah, and I do think that this actor could have easily played the same character, but as an alien. And that I don't think would have changed how much I like him. But there was definitely a backlash against that. And for good enough reason. But I think that, like, even as a woman and as somebody who wants to see more diversity in Star Wars, I still, like, really like Cal. And don't really want to give him up. And we can talk more about diversity when we get to the parts of the game that I think really shine. But this game, I think, despite the initial like facade of being about a white human male, really changes and does do something that the Star Wars franchise hasn't really done before. So
Exactly.
we'll talk about that later.
And plus, with the whole white human male being the central character or something, that also kind of directly relates to archaeology in a way, because it's often been said that this is the discipline for, white guys
Yeah,
and
we say as women,
white women. Yeah.
white women.
But hey, there's some diversity in there.
Yeah.
Apprentice, mark well and listen. Master. Trust only in the Force.
And actually, the fact that both of Cal's kind of mentors at the beginning here, him and his master, are aliens, is actually very rare. It's very rare that like an alien in Star Wars is the master of the main character. So
Yeah.
and it doesn't really make him all that different in the Star Wars franchise because of how amputation is handled in the Star Wars franchise. But Cal does wear that glove all the time, and we don't really know if that's because he has a fake limb or if it's because he just wears that glove all the time.
Also,
least-
I have to say that in terms of character aesthetic design here, that helmet and this whole like look for our baddie that just entered on screen is quite something.
Yeah, the fact that the two main antagonists in this game are
Female.
women is also a very big deal. So
This is a very common anarchist, but a devotee of the treasonous Jedi Order.
I just love this game.
That's fair.
This Let's Play is basically gonna be me fangirling over this game, and I apologize.
I mean, that's why we're doing it. And honestly, like you said very powerfully in a number of your presentations on this, we can use Star Wars as like such a cool bridge to talk about a lot of archaeological themes, and as kind of a safe place to do that. Where instead of just start trashing most of modern humanity and archaeological themes, we could use this game as a vehicle to talk about some of this instead.
I've been working on this.
Yeah, and I think this game is a really good way to do it.
Refit and rebuild ships.
A lot of things in Star Wars actually are. We had a friend who told us that actually the American
Scrappers.
government uses the 7th Star Wars movie, the very beginning of it, when Rey is doing some scrap work, to talk about what kind of people they might encounter, military members might encounter.
In some parts of like the Mid and Near East, especially with what we would loosely term subsistence looters. But it's certainly an interesting example.
Yeah, because Rey is fairly well a subsistence looter
Indeed
at the
she
very
is.
the very beginning of the 7th movie. So
And what that basically means is subsistence looters would have to, loot to support themselves, like loot and sell things to support themselves. And it's a complicated issue in archaeology, but yeah, that the U.S. military actually uses that as an example does say quite a bit.
yeah,
Stop! Intruder! Hear that over the comm? A Jedi? Stay sharp. They won't get the traitor. Blast them. Contact confirmed. Shoot to kill. Stay back. Just stay back.
Nice. Oof. I may have a lot of issues with lightsabers in general as a concept, but I have to say that Cal's wielding them and some of like his stylistic moves are very well done.
I've sealed the cargo door.
I like lightsabers as a concept, but I understand why you would not. But I like the idea, personally.
That's fair.
Let's see. I first watched Star Wars, I think, around the time that the prequel trilogy came out. I think that's when my dad showed me the original ones, and then I watched the prequel ones as they came out, kind of.
I chose to rest instead. That's how I prepare.
That's how you prepare for death. Rest when you're dead, Stormtrooper. Eyes over there!
All right.
You have to deal with me now, Jedi.
So Star Wars is somewhat sentimental for me, and it is one of my favorite franchises, probably, but I don't think it's my favorite one. I mean, Lord of the Rings is easily my favorite franchise.
Same. Same.
Can't all be dead. Can they?
I had a lot of people ask me that, like, as a medievalist, did I like Game of Thrones? And the answer is no, in general. It had its moments, I'll say that, but nah. It's got a lot wrong with it, too. Which I'm sure we'll discuss later, perhaps if I end up doing a Witcher Let's Play in the future.
My camera angle kind of went weird there.
Indeed it did. It was like, where is this?
Boy, I'm ready for it.
Oh, I should have took you down, but whatever. I'll just slice you up instead. But I mean, I do really like Star Wars, and you know, I'm not gonna get into it, but I guess one of those people who likes most of it, even if I recognize some of the issues it has. Just kind of like it for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Almost got him.
I remember we had a number of conversations when you told people that you were researching Star Wars as part of your master's thesis. And they're like, well, George Lucas was an anthropologist. It's like, yes, he certainly had some anthropological background, which probably explains why how to put this, the worlds he created have so much, like, detail, at least in many, many of them.
Yeah, I think it was his bachelor's degree. He had a bachelor's degree in anthropology.
Stop the train.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely had a bunch of people telling me that was, you know, the most important thing about something I should mention in my research.
Gotta move in between bursts.
But none of the things that I personally researched for my thesis were done by George Lucas. The company was already sold at that point. So while it was, you know, under his influence that the franchise started, I mean, he created it. I won't take that away from him. He did create it. None of the things I was studying were, like, directly done by him. And so I was kind of, like, slightly annoyed that everybody kept telling me that it was that I should make sure to say that he was an anthropologist.
I'm pretty sure it was at one of those meetings, or after one of those meetings, that I told you need to have something in there. It's like, Star Wars has always been more than just the movies. Because a whole other, you know, world out there in collaboration with other authors beyond just Lucas himself that went into the world building of this whole franchise.
Yeah, so I mean, I think even before the first movie came out, there was a comic panel that came out by Marvel. They owned the rights to make the Star Wars comics until sometime in the 80s when Dark Horse started doing them. And then Marvel gained the rights back when Disney bought the company because they owned Marvel. And so, but yeah, so I mean, even before the first movie came out, there was a comic about Star Wars, and it was partially, you know, to promote the movie.
Yeah.
But it still existed. And then, it wasn't too long after the first, or the last of the sequel trilogy, or the original trilogy, sorry. The original trilogy came out that, books started coming out. The Thrawn trilogy is perhaps the most famous, for good reason. I definitely read those books,
This is bad.
and they were really good. Timothy Zahn did a fantastic job with those books, and with some of the new Thrawn books that have come out post Disney. Thrawn is also a fascinating character, and one I talked about in my thesis.
Indeed.
And I can talk about him later. But so, and then video games started coming out, and I had a chart. Well, one of my advisors on my committee wanted me to make a chart of like all of the Star Wars things that have come out, and I laughed almost in their face because it was ridiculous. Like the putting everything that's ever come out on Star Wars in a chart, you know, is like 1,000 pages long.
I mean, seriously, it would have been 1,000 pages long.
It might not have been 1,000 pages long, but
It would have been a lot, though.
It would have been very long, and it felt like an impossible task. Because there's no, like, the only place where you can sort of find all of it listed in chronological order is honestly Wikipedia, or the fandom wiki, which, you know, isn't generally considered kosher in academia.
Source either.
But it was literally the only place I could find everything listed, and the page was like the scrolling part at the bottom was like infinitely small. Like it was the smallest like the scrolling bar on the edge of the screen can be. So so it was like, I can't do that. There's no way I can do that. So it ended up being kind of just the ones that were the most relevant. Which ended up being fine. It ended up being fine for the sake of the thesis. But
Train stuff?
yeah, it's never been just the movies, and I ended up with a chart seeing just how much material there was, just for reference, and it wasn't exact, and it probably had errors because I had to physically count them myself, because there's not like a grand total number anywhere that I could find, except for movies, because movies it's easier to count. There's only been a certain number of them, at least so far. And TV shows was kind of similar to that, where it was easy enough to count the number of TV shows that have come out. But in terms of books and comics and video games, what do you even consider a video game? Do you consider like all of the Star Wars apps on iOS and like the Google Play Store and such to be Star Wars video games? How many of those are canon? How many of them aren't? How many of them were canon and aren't anymore? And I tried to make that distinction, but it, like I said, the page was very long and I had to count them all by hand, basically.
gosh.
I recognize that stance.
And it wasn't, it wasn't a fun time for me personally.
I must say though that after seeing the end results of the graph you did make, it was quite pretty. So kudos to you on making the graph.
Yeah, I mean, I tried. So if you want those numbers, my thesis is free to look at it down. But maybe I'll post just that chart somewhere
that'd be
for you
fun.
guys, just to see what the numbers might look like. But sorry, I'm concentrating. Or I'm trying to concentrate. But yeah, maybe I'll post that chart on our Instagram. Just
That'd be
so
fun.
you guys can see the numbers, or at least what I think are the numbers. Again, I know it's not completely accurate, but it's the best I could do at the time. So
Fair enough.
and I will say I'm not trying that hard at this fight because I know it's not winnable, but
I have to say her dismissive flick that she did with her souped up lightsaber was pretty impressive.
she just looks so cool.
Oh, I know. Super cool.
And another thing I kind of like about this game is like Cal is easily maybe the least cool of all of them. Like,
That's fair.
in terms of usually the protagonist gets all the cool shots and the cool like stunts and you know really cool scenes, but honestly I think a lot of the other characters in this game have way better scenes and general like swag than Cal does.
Based on your reactions when we were playing through this the first time, I certainly agree with that. We're like, yeah, Cal's great, but there are other characters who have even more swag.
Yeah, you better pay attention to that lady.
Cal. Estes. Who was that back there?
Imperial Inquisitor. She's a Force user hunting Jedi survivors. And now that she knows who you are, she will not stop until she destroys you.
How do you know so much? And why'd you help me?
We tracked Imperial communications. We heard the Inquisitors were heading to Brock. So we made our move.
Yeah? What's the bounty on Jedi these days anyway?
That's gratitude for you.
I get it. You've been surviving on your own for so long that it's impossible to trust anyone. And it's what's kept you alive.
Some of Cal's very humanness coming out here.
Than just surviving.
Like what?
Like rebuilding the Jedi Order.
You too. Anybody else?
Oh, we're not good enough for you?
Jedi Council?
The this game in general does a very good job at making everyone in it very human. Very relatable anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Set a course for
Personable. I don't know. I don't know the right word. Relatable, definitely.
Indeed.
try it. Go,
And even to have these, badass characters running around space who are not afraid to like show some of their emotions and talk about the trauma they've experienced and kind of like opening up to other people is something I don't think you saw in some of the other Star Wars media, at least maybe not at the start.
Not in
This
the
game
movies.
probably, yeah, no, this game does a much better job of making, as you said, very relatable, personable characters.
Yeah. Believable is another word.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, often the problem with the hero story is that it's just Cal. It's just not
It's
the
not told
hero's
on like
too
that
perfect,
yeah.
or
It's not told on that human scale.
yeah. That's my biggest problem with like Superman. Is that when a character doesn't have a flaw, or when it's something stupid like kryptonite, that's not human. It's not relatable. And maybe we want our heroes to be better than us in some form or fashion. But modern storytelling, anyway, is much more about making them believable as characters, and as human, or at least human-like if they're a different species. But here we get to the point of the game where it is all about archaeology.
Oh, yes.
That song. I wrote it. Years ago. You touch an object and witness events connected to it. You feel its history.
It's an echo in the force from the object.
Not many Jedi have that skill.
How would you know that?
I was once a Jedi, but not anymore.
Do I know you?
No. But I knew your master, General T'Pol. He was a true guardian of the Republic.
He was a hero. Listen. Something happened to me during the Purge. I survived, but my connection to the Force is damaged. When I meditate, if I let my guard down, I lose control. And it's like I'm back in that moment when...
You survived, Cal. And you're not alone. Not anymore.
We're coming up on our destination.
Yeah, so I wish I could touch an object and know exactly what happened to it. It would
Yeah.
make all of my research so much easier.
Yeah, it would.
This is Morgana. A Jedi I knew discovered it before the Purge. You won't find it on any map.
There's a whole vein of pseudo archaeology that's called like psychometrizing things, which is basically touching an object and knowing its entire history and who made it, whatnot. But again, if archaeology actually operated like that, it would make our job so much easier.
Rebuilding the Jedi.
But alas,
But it requires someone's
Doesn't
But
quite
the
work
idea
that
of it
way.
is very archaeological. I mean, we literally talk about history from objects most of the time.
And sometimes even from the object's point of view.
Yeah, I mean, material culture is most of what we have to work with as archaeologists.
Yep,
So,
as one of my academic heroes has said in her writing, she's like, "Yeah, the humans as actors are rarely recoverable in that case, so it's mostly the things, the artifacts from the past that we have to focus on."
I love that he does that because he's been on a planet without, like, plant life
Yeah.
for a long time. And so I really like that that's, like, the first thing he does is pick up a piece of grass because, I mean, I feel like that's what I would do too. I'd probably just face plant into the grass. But yeah,
Indeed.
I'm going to get us to the little meditation point that's up here. And that's where we're going to call it for today. But this was a lot of fun. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
This looks like a safe place to meditate. Just need to focus my mind.
So just kidding, we're back for a minute. Because I couldn't get out of that screen without this cutscene, and it's the best cutscene.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Introducing almost objectively one of the best characters in this whole
Not
thing.
here. Searching for a Jedi, I think. Hold on. You know the Jedi? What do you know? Wait, hold on. Did you just slice that? Thanks.
Yeah, so we'll call it there, but I love BD1.
Oh, yes. He's fabulous.
Yeah, but we will see you next time, starting from right here on this meditation point. So, see you next week, cryptids.